Well, welcome to my shop again. Got another little project here I'm going to try this morning. It's going to be a decorative frame. Nothing really complicated here. It's going to be made from simple pine and birch ply. And what we're going to have is the basic frame, which you see here in the pattern. It's going to be cut from a 3/4 inch piece of pine. And it's going to be cut right through. The letters are going to be cut, and the little clouds above it. The word trees is going to be the focal point. It's going to be a nature type of frame. And what we want to do is take slides and push them down behind the actual lettering, so you see a picture inside the openings. Now, this is not going to be too complicated. It's just that we have to make the slide so that it fits in the bottom track, which we're going to make on the bottom of this frame. Now, the first thing we're going to have to do is make the slide that we want to use, because we want to know the exact size of it and thickness of it, basically, so that it'll slide on the track that we're going to make really easy. So what I've got to do first is use this pattern to make our slide. Now we're going to take a picture and we're going to glue it down on there with an adhesive, and then we're going to cut out the little bubbly shapes here, cloud shapes, which is going to be the frame, the slide that we're going to put in the frame. So I think we'll work on that first, and we'll take it one step at a time, and I'll show you how this is going to proceed. Alright, the first thing we want to do is take this picture of some leaves. It's a nice and decorative picture of fall, representing the trees, of course. And we're going to use some adhesive on the back and glue it down right on this piece of wood, which is going to be our frame, our slide. So let's go over to the adhesive area and do this right now. Okay, we've got our picture down here. We're going to put it down, face down, and use this adhesive. You can use any type of adhesive you want. Hopefully this will work. Spray a generous amount on the back of it. You want to put this down on the board. Now let's go back over to the workbench, and we'll put this on the board itself. Alright, our job now is to take this very sticky picture and glue it right to the piece of wood. Make our slide. Alright, there. That'll look pretty good. Just rub that down a little bit. There. Now, the reason we're doing this first is that we have 1/4 inch birch plywood, but the slot we're going to make is going to be the 1/4 inch plus the thickness of the paper too. If we didn't check this out first, we won't know exactly how much area we need to widen that. So we do this first, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with this after we've got that done. Now the next thing is to take this pattern and tape it right down on the top with some box wrapping tape, and we'll use that as our guide to cut out the frame the size that we need. We take this and put it right over the area we're going to be cutting. And this should be good enough so that we can do this. And it looks like 3 slices of tape will probably do this for us. There we go. Wrap that around the back. And now we'll take this over to the scroll saw and we'll cut this out and we'll have our frame, our slide. I keep saying frame. It's our slide that we're going to put in the frame. Okay, so let's go over there and cut this out now. Using a number 5 reverse tooth blade, about 3/4 speed here. Let's take it out. Okay, I think we've accomplished what we wanted to do. Take that off, and we have our nice little slide here that we can use for our background of our lettering. Now, you can do something like this with a picture, or you could do, faces, or you could do cartoons, or maybe just plain color if you like, whatever way you want. You'll see how this works in a little while. And I just happen to use the leaves because they're good representatives of what trees are, I suppose. Okay, we're ready to cut the frame now. As with all my projects, my experiments, I sometimes have to make changes as I go along. I'll have them all finalized with a pattern when I'm done, of course. But I've decided to go a different route for the frame. What we're going to do is we're going to cut out the pattern as you see it here on one side of the frame. The other one we can leave completely solid. And then, in order to make our channel, instead of cutting it down with the table saw, trying to figure out where we are, what we're going to do is we're going to put a little cleat down the bottom here to raise this up and make this a little channel that we can slide our slide in later on. In other words, the slide will go behind all of this eventually. Okay? So what we'll do is we'll cut this out first, and then we'll work on the bottom part so we can make our channel. Put all this on a base, of course, so it will stand up nicely. So let's go to the scroll saw and cut this out. Taped up the background on the board here that I'm going to cut. And I was able to attach using my trusty glue stick. Attach that to the tape. And then I took my little drill press and drilled the holes for my saw blade to go through. What we're going to do is cut this out, all the center pieces out first. And then we're going to attach this to a second board, which is going to be the back of the frame, and then we'll cut around the edges of this so that we'll have identical frame pieces. But we only want the printing on the front. You could do it so that it goes all the way through if you want to have it double-sided, but of course trees wouldn't spell correctly. You have to have a palindrome type word that would go both ways. I think it'd be better to do this. So I'm going to cut this out using the number 5 R blade and reverse tooth blade, and we'll move on to the other pieces after we do this. There we go. Well, I've cut out the lettering and the clouds, Now we got to cut around the frame, but before we do that, we want to attach this board here. You can see already that you're starting to see a nicer formation with a slide in there, if it were the slide. But we want to attach this by putting it there and using some box tape so we can see what we're cutting. Now we're going to take this back to the scroll saw and cut all around the frame so we have the front and the back of our picture frame. Outline of the frame here. Hopefully this tape will hold it down enough. Alright, now we're ready to make our little groove between the front and the back of the frame. What I did was I cut a piece of wood, same thickness, 1/4 inch thickness, because it's going to have to fit that in there. And it's about 3/4 of an inch wide, and it's about 8 inches long. And we're going to just glue that down right there. And then we're going to glue this one on top. So we have this gap between the two, the front and the back of the frame. That's where our slide is going to fit to make our decorative picture here. Okay, so let's put a little bit of glue on here. Regular wood glue is fine. You don't need a lot of the glue, just enough to hold it down here. And what I do is I'm just sort of centering it on the back of the frame. Doesn't have to be that spectacular. I ran the front of the frame over the sanding mop a little bit. Took all the fuzzies off of that. And we want to plug this down here right on top of the barrier that we've made. Now, we want to have a little bit of space there. We want to have a little bit of space, so we don't want this thing pressing down. So what we'll do is we'll take this, move it out toward the edge here, and we'll clamp down, we'll clamp all the way across. That's nice and flat here. Along the middle, along either side. So we got a nice little gap. See that little gap there? Which is where our slide is going to fit. Make this look rather nice. So what we got to do is let this dry now for a while. And you could actually paint this if you want, or you could stain it, or leave it plain if it's a better wood than this. I'm using birch plywood. You could use a better wood than that, of course. But I think I'm going to just leave it plain, since this is what I'm doing for the experiment here for us to take a look at. Now, we're going to put this board right between the two, like this. Alright? But first of all, we're going to let this dry. Make sure it's nice and firm. We'll eventually have to make a base for this, of course, to put it on. Alright, we'll leave it like this now for a while. Let it dry. As I said, you could use, you could make different slides. This happens to be one. I had another picture here too. You could use with some trees in the background, or you could use solid colors. You could actually paint the back of this solid color if you wanted to use that. Or you could put a picture on both sides, and that way, in this case here, you might have fall and you might have spring on the other side. a lot of ways of doing this to make it look good. Alright, after this dries, come back and we'll try it out and see if it works. I let this dry for a little while. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the little slide that we made. We're going to put it in there so you can see how this fits. Just slide right down. That's why they call it a slide. Joke, folks. Just like that. There we go. I'll take that clamp off to be a little better. Now you can move your slide around, of course, so if you don't like what's behind it, you can put something else there by just simply moving it. Now let's take a look at this from the front a little bit. There you go. Okay, you got a nice little border along the top, a decorative border, and we've got the frame itself with the word trees in it. Now, this could look different depending upon what you do, what you use it for. If you want to, you could even modify the pattern, maybe make some squares here, and you could put your kids' pictures in the background, or you could put maybe some animals or pets if you have those instead. But this gives you an idea of what this is going to look like, and because as I said, you can take this out, put another one in, change it with the seasons or with your whims, whichever case may be. Alright, I'm going to leave it like that for now for a while, and then we'll put the base on it. The base is going to be just a simple little rectangle we cut from a piece of cherry, I think it was, that we had. We're going to put that on the bottom with glue, make it stand upright, because the way it is now it's rather thin, just would topple over on us, and that'll help make it look a little better also. You could also spray this with a clear spray if you want. A lot of variations. Okay, our little sign is finished. I put a base on the bottom, as I explained earlier, made from a bit of cherry. Just glue it down. Didn't bother to spray it or anything. You could do that. Keep in mind the slides that you put in there, you could put anything you want on them, and if you don't like that ruffled edge along the top and sides, you could always cut the slide so that it fits exactly with the front and back frame. But I think it looks kind of nice with the additional fluff of the clouds in the background. Okay, well, that's our project for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Warm your scroll saw up and give it a try if you want. If you got any other ideas with this, leave them in the comments down below. I'd be glad to hear them. You can get this free pattern also, by the way. There's a link down below which will take you there. If the link doesn't work, then you can always send me an email, abagetta@comcast.net, and I'll be glad to send it to you. There's no charge for it. It's a free pattern. Well, thank you for watching. Come back again sometime.